Hello, all aviators. You are listening to The Right Rudder. I am your host, Abdullah, and you're listening to the second episode of our podcast. Today, we will be discussing who is a pilot and how to become one. Why to become one? Should we become one? So, let's talk about them. First is, who is a pilot? So, I remember as a kid, when I was getting into the aircraft, you see this man, usually man, well today more women, but still they make up about 1% of, maybe a bit more than 1% of all pilot population, but growing, which is a good news. Walking up the stairs, seeing this man in such nice uniform, put together, sharp, looking very fresh, and it was just a picture of competence. And the work environment with all those switches and the instruments just looks like the most exciting job ever, the most exciting characters ever. They must be the most knowledgeable people, the most closed, secretive, a high-class, elite group of people. And they have their life together, and they're stable, balanced, and they must be enjoying their life. So, well, I wouldn't say that it's wrong or that perception is flawed, but it doesn't pertain to all pilots. Basically, most people could become pilots. Who is a pilot, though, is a person, basically and simply put, who has passed their exams, dedicated a lot of time, studied many nightless, sleepless hours, and attained their licenses and managed to actually get a job and pass the interviews. And who is a passionate person and motivated, because you cannot be a pilot if you're not passionate and motivated. Believe me, it's just too much. For most people, spending more than 2 hours or 2-3 flights is just enough. We have certain criteria on which pilots are judged, and those are the core competencies that a pilot needs to demonstrate. And usually throughout the flight school, they and the aviation industry itself, they try to mold pilots into these competency factors. Usually it is best seen in those who start aviation at a young age, and for many people, aviation starts at a young age. Those who become pilot usually do not have any other academic background and start at a very early age. You have to remember that the most common path to becoming a pilot is not through university but through academies. So these competencies are communication, for example, flight path management. All those are technical ones. Let's stay to the ones that about character. Communication, teamwork, leadership, work management, prioritization, and so on. The list is available as ICAO 8 core competencies of a pilot. So usually pilots are people who are highly knowledgeable. They have to know those things and must attain all technical knowledge about systems, meteorology, human behavior, physics, physiology, radio wave propagation, and many other things. It is actually one of the few fields that puts everything together in a practical manner. But it doesn't mean that they are complete people. Like, you can see many crazy people in aviation, crazy pilots, some commit suicide and kill everyone with them. So at the end of the day, they are just people. They are humans who, for the most part, are just earning a living and find satisfaction with what they do. Most pilots do. That's why they stay with it for the rest of their life. And it was more satisfying financially before. And as time is passing, with more budget airlines and so on, pilots don't have that image of a life that they have a dream life and they go to the best hotels and stay in the best resorts and have all kinds of fancy experiences. Today, if you're working in a regional airline, you spend your time moving with 50-minute flights, in and out, overworked, underpaid, tired, and hate your life. But the love of aviation keeps you going. And most common pathway for pilots is a laborious one. It's not like you get your licenses and you're on 737 or 777. You have to go through those steps. For many people, they become instructors first, or they go start working on caravan, on smaller planes, work their way up, and like that until they get to where they want to be actually. So today, for most pilots, that kind of dream life is just a show. It doesn't exist unless you're in a very big carrier, like huge airline, and you get those benefits, usually national carriers. But for others, they're just living with a basic salary, but with a job that they love nevertheless. And the status itself is something that cannot be beaten. Pilots are still highly esteemed by society and have high status. That is what gives most pilots this higher satisfaction from their job also. Then, how to become a pilot today? Well, traditionally it was through state-funded programs or universities. Today, if you have money, you can become one. You can at least give it a shot. So you can go through any private school, look at their programs, go through the modular integrated, spend 2-3 years and get your licenses. If you don't have any specific severe physical issue or psychological issue, and you don't have learning disability, and you're a bit braver than the average Joe, because let's be honest, you're gonna fly on a single engine aircraft for 200 hours. If you're gonna go for the cheapest option in aviation, usually not the best maintained aircrafts, and you're basically not have much safety. And you're gonna have a tough time going through these stages, getting from one license type to another. So when you enter, you're gonna do PPL. Most common route is the modular right now, for those who don't have the full time to dedicate, and a cheaper option. So you go for PPL, private pilot license, then you finish, you do your time building, you study your ATPLs in EASA. Remember, we're talking about Europe. In FAA, it's a bit different, but not so much. And after your PPL, you start your IR instrument rating so that you can fly in less favorable meteorological conditions. Then you do your CPL, commercial pilot license, so that you can get paid for what you like. And attain your ATPL frozen theoretical certificate. All right. So in this way, you are officially a pilot. You have your licenses, you have your ratings, you have a single engine, you have a multi-engine piston, and then you go to MCC, multi-crew cooperation, where you will be taught and practice on a simulator, any certain type of simulator, depending on the organization that you go to. to do your multi-crew cooperation MCC, and you will learn how to work in an environment with another people or more people. So communicating, dividing the tasks, and synergizing your communication and cooperation with others. Then you will take the JOC or JOC, Jet Orientation course. And hopefully by the end of that, you will be accepted by an airline that will pay for your type rating, which will cost anywhere starting from 30,000. That you will go through a type rating for a certain type of aircraft. Remember, you get your licenses, but any aircraft that you want to fly, you need to be type rated on. So for example, you need to be type rated on a 777. You have to go through sim training, simulator training, and then line training with some touch and goes at an airport. So, and then you become a first officer. After a few years, getting some hours, 1,500 hours of different types of hours, you can be eligible to be a captain. And then you're looking to spend the rest of your life there. And everything in aviation comes with seniority. Your program, your schedule, your roster improves as you get more senior in a company, any company. You get better destinations, better timings. You can get the holidays off. And your situation becomes more favorable the longer you stay in a company. Doesn't matter how long you're a pilot, seniority is something that depends on the company. So say if you were 15 years in KLM and then you go to British Airways, you're a junior and you get the bottom of the bottom. So why should you become a pilot? I think we answered this question, but let's just say why should you become a pilot? Well, for one, it's nice. It feels good, It's an engaging task. You become one with the aircraft. It has its own. You're entering another world. You're living in a different world that is beyond anything that others go through. You are moving. You're going up, down. Always a new experience. No two flights are the same. Never, ever, and will never be. You are never flying in the same air, same weather, and most probably not with the same people or the same plane. So there is always this variation that takes out the boredom and routineness. So that's something good. If you like that, if you like to sit in an office 8 hours, type and beat the hell out of the keyboard, be my guest, enjoy it. But I just cannot do that. I just can't do that. Can't imagine it. Maybe someday, but cannot imagine it. You're here in the aircraft, moving up, down, playing with this huge toy that you most people can never afford to buy, and no matter how much money you have, you cannot fly an aircraft unless you go get the license. And you are basically in a very superior position, a very elite place, very top place, very in the skim the 1% of society that get to have this kind of experiences. So that for me is the main thing, the rush of getting above the clouds, playing with the instruments, doing approaches, communicating. Just the communication itself is a world. Oscar Kilo, Charlie, Alpha, Tango, on approach, runway 23, established. That's just it, man. That's just it. And the money could be good, if you work your way up into a good airline like Middle East or like even United Airlines, American Airlines. When you work your way up, you make anywhere upwards of $300,000 with everything paid. So you're good, you're set, and you have the prestige, you have respect, you're living it, you see the world. If your airline has huge destination list, And life is good. Life is good. But you also have that stress that you have to do your sim checks every 6 months. You have to pass things. You have to renew your licenses. You have to do your medical every year. And then when you get older, every 6 months, you have to do your medical. And anything that could happen, like a simple disease, like anything unexpected, take away your job. So you always have to think about that backup plan as well if you're smart. Like you see with the COVID what happened. Many pilots got laid off and had to fend like overnight from an Airbus driver to a bus driver. So the why should you become, for me, outweighs why not. So should you become a pilot? Well, you have to look at yourself. Do you have deep pockets? First, I would say, do you have deep pockets? Can you afford a really good school? Can you afford good planes? And then, are you willing to put the time? Do you love it? Do you want to become a pilot? Some people have an illusion as to what is the pilot training. So, do you really know what it takes? How many hours you have to study? How much stress you have to put up with? Can you really fly in cloud and see ice build up on your wings and not know if you can land or not? Can you do that? And then, do you like to be above the clouds and enjoy the sun, and below you is a white carpet and no problems from the ground can reach you? Do you like that? Do you want the flight attendants coming and serving you coffee at the press of a button, and everyone being nice to you and smiling at you, and you can bring it up everywhere at any conversation? So what do? I'm a pilot. And that's, wow, you're a pilot. You fly planes. I've never seen a pilot. Well, if you think about it, yes, most people have never seen a pilot. We see doctors, we see dentists everywhere, but we don't see pilots. So you're unique. You become unique. You become desirable. So that, are you willing to put up with those stresses of studying, with the uncertainties of it? And do you want the joy of it, the experience of it, the thrill, the adrenaline, the feeling of importance, and the feeling of an experience, seeing the world, moving around, being in motion, and learning? You will meet many people. The aviation community is amazing. Many nice people, motivated, energized. And yeah, do you want to play with a very expensive toy and always remain a kid? Or grow old fast from all the stress? So, should you not? You have to weigh. Who are you? Can you take it? You can give it a try. You can have a consultation with an experienced. I would highly recommend, before getting into it, go and talk to any school that you go to, talk to student pilots at different levels and ask them, how do you manage it? How is it? What's the level of stress? And try to enroll in lessons and programs to get a taste of what is the content about. Because many people join with the thought of, well, I can fly. I can go and fly hours and then when they come to the theory and they want to read about the aspect ratio and the bypass ratio of the engine and the combustion, those things, the induced drag and the parasite drag, and which one increases with what is the VY, what is the VX, how does V1 change, and just the propeller slipstream, the jet engine operation, what's the difference, which one has the highest output, at what altitude, what is the lapse rate of temperature, how does pressure affect air stability, what type of clouds mean what. And when they get to that, they're just like, oh, they drop out. And most of people drop out in PPL. 70% of all pilot students that join aviation, they drop out in PPL, and mostly because of the weight of the theory. Everybody just likes to fly, fly is nice, it's fun, but the theory is the hard part. The groundwork is the hard part. And that's why we make the ground school, our BHP Aviation. Brake horsepower to unleash the power and make the ground training simple for you. Until next time, guys, over and out.